When you're ready to work with layers, there's several different ways you can access them, but you'll almost always find it over here in this tool palette on the side. Now you can work with the layers in this palette, and you have the ability to close this palette to get more screen space, but when you do that, you then cannot see the layers. And I prefer working that way because it gives me more space. So when I want to use the layers, there's another way you can do it. If you just click here and drag onto the desktop, it will allow you to have that layers palette right here, and you can move it around and put it where it's most convenient for you, and you can close this side drawer then, and the palette remains here where you can use it. This is the way I prefer to use the layers palette. Now that we have the Monhegan image open and the layers palette where we want it to be, I want to discuss some of the different features that we're going to use in relationship with the layers. One of the things is that you can do a lot of different things with the layers, and you need to access menus to do that occasionally. One place you access is over here where it says More. Oops, I'll move this over so we can see that. You click here and you can see there's a whole list of different things that we can do. Now, you saw how inconvenient that was, that you have to have that space there. Sometimes that doesn't work well, and some people prefer using this up here in the menu bar. All of those same adjustments are available up here. Okay, so you can access some of the layers attributes by either clicking under More or clicking here under Layers. What I want to discuss are these settings across the top here and how to use them. Now, one of the first things I usually do is I want to make a copy of the background layer for several reasons. That way, if I mess up the original and the next layer I'm working on, I can always revert back to this layer. Or I can compare. Once I've made several changes and merged them, maybe I can turn this one on and turn the other one off and see the difference in what I've done, which I'll demonstrate later on. But for right now, I want to make a new layer. Now, there are several ways to do it. The easiest way for me is to click here, drag up over this little turn corner piece of paper right here, and that will make a new layer. And you can now see that we have two layers. Now, if I want to get rid of a layer, I click on it, drag it up here to the trash can, and just click, and it'll go away. Now, just like everything else in Photoshop or Photo Elements, there's always more than one way to do everything. And there's actually 3 different ways to perform this same task. I can also go on up here and click on More, and I can say Duplicate Layer, and it will make me a new layer. And when I do it this way, it gives me an opportunity to relabel the layer. So I'm going to say OK. So now I have 2 layers again. Now I can click back up here again. As long as the layer is selected, you can see the layer is blue. That means it's a selected layer. Now if I come back up here now, I can just go down and I can say Delete Layer. And the layer will ask me, and then I say yes, and the layer will go away. Now we can do those same functions up here under the Layers pull-down menu. So you can see that there's several different ways that you can make and get rid of layers. Now, if you just want a blank layer, which we're going to use a lot of, because every time you add something new to a document, you should always add it on a layer. So I'm going to click here, and I've made a new layer. Now over here, these are the layer adjustments. These are all different types of effects that we can apply to the layers palette. And it's hierarchical. Whatever thing I put in, as long as it's above other layers, it will impact those layers. Now I'm just going to make a solid colored layer here to demonstrate that technique. So you can now see I've already picked yellow. I could go in here and change it to any color I want. Let's make it, but I'm going to go back to the yellow. And I'm going to say OK. Now we can see here's the layer. We can't see the image because this yellow layer is on top of it. And I can click here, and now we can see the bottom layer. Click back again, and we can't. Now I want to go back and duplicate this bottom layer again. So I'm going to go here, going up there, and now I have 2. Now I'm going to click this on. Okay. Now we have another thing up here, and this is called the opacity. I can change the opacity of this layer so that we can see through it to see what's underneath it. So I just grab the slider and move it over. Whoops, not selected. Remember, it has to be selected, it has to have the blue. Slide it over. You can now see that we can see through this. Okay, and later on you're going to see there's many different types of opportunities where we can apply this technique. So I'm going to pull it back over here, And now I don't want this layer. I could throw it away, or I could just turn it off. And in this case, I'm just going to turn it off. So now it doesn't have any effect on what's underneath it because we've turned it off. You want to think of these layers as like pieces of glass that you can place effects on. And you can pull the glass in and out, or you can turn it on, or you can make the glass more transparent so that you can see through it. And you always want to think about like you're standing at the top of this pile and looking down through the effects. Because hierarchical, whatever is on top of something else will impact it. We can see that this background layer is locked. Now, if we wanted to lock any other layer, all we'd have to do is have that layer selected, click here, and now that layer is locked. Okay? And we can't change it. If I go on to see opacity is not available, we can't make any changes in the layer. And if you have a layer and you want to unlock it, you just click here and the lock goes away. This we'll use later on for linking, and I'll explain that at that point. Now these adjustment layers are really important, and we're going to use these a lot. Okay, and this is the real heart of what layers will do for you, is in this palette right here. Now that I have my background layer duplicated, I'm going to move this back over just a little bit so we can see the whole picture. And it looks like now what I want to do is I want to select just the blue and get rid of the blue. So I'm going to use the Magic Wand tool to do that. And the Magic Wand tool is right here. I'm going to click on that. And then up here we want to look at the tolerance. Right here. And the tolerance is set at 50. Okay? Which isn't too bad because this blue is pretty much similar all over, so it will work pretty well. And then over here I have the Join Selections thing clicked. So if I click more than one area, it will automatically connect those items. So now we're going to take the tool, bring it out here, and click. You see it's made a really nice, clean selection. Now this is an ideal image to work with because it has nice, clean, straight images. If you had trees or grass or something like that, it's much more difficult to make this selection. It can be done, you just have to work a lot harder. But anytime you see that you have an architectural shot with a weak sky, it's a no-brainer to be able to fix it using this tool. I'm going to shut off this background layer because we don't want to see it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the delete key. And you can see it's deleted that background. Now we have a clear background. When you see these checkerboard, it indicates that it's transparent and there's nothing that can be seen underneath it. Now you can see that we still have the marching ants. Well, I want to get rid of the marching ants because if I bring anything in, it will cut them. So I'm going to take and turn that off and go deselect. And now I'm ready to bring in my images. So I'm just going to go on over. I'm going to go out to Open. And in the Layers folder, I say I have Sky 1 and Sky 2. I'll just click on these, and I can select them both at the same time by holding the Shift key down, and then say Open. Now it's going to take a few minutes, but it's going to open both of these images for us. Now that both images are open, I'm going to move them down a ways a bit so I can see the image behind. Now, we could cut and copy these images in, but there's a much faster way to do it just with drag and drop. If you have to have the move arrow selected. If I click on this and I drag it up over and hover it, you can see how I get that dotted line. That means it's going to drop it into that image. Now, if I want it centered exactly, I just have to hold down the Shift key, and when I drop, it's going to center it in there perfect for me. So let's go back and get the other one. Right here. Same thing. Click, drag, hold the Shift key down, and drop. And now we have both skies moved in, and we can see they're now over here in the Layers palette. But the problem is now is we can't see the building. That's because the layers aren't in the right sequence. Remember, it's hierarchical. Whatever's on top, you're going to see first. So we have to move the background of the church up here. And now we can see the sky. Now, if I shut off this sky, we're going to see the next sky. And because these skies are much larger, I can move them. So I want to make sure that this is selected. I can see the blue. I can click over here now, and I can move this sky around until I get a more interesting. I like that nice high contrast right in there. So I'm going to leave that right there for that one. I'm going to turn this one off, and I'm going to come down to this one now. And I'm going to do the same thing. like that right there. So now I have these two skies both in here. Now the next step is we're going to make our own sky.